This is lesson 3.7, day 1. We are going to start talking about parallel lines and transversals. So identifying the special pairs of angles that parallel lines make. We're also going to identify parallel skew and transversals and apply some theorems about all of these parallel lines. So what are parallel lines? Well, we've been talking about parallel ever since middle school, but two lines that never touch. So we have an indicator with our arrows here that these are parallel, and then we have our little symbol for parallel lines. They do not ever touch, and again, those arrowheads are indicated on there to show that those are parallel. Skew lines are two lines that basically just don't intersect, and they're not coplanar, and they're not parallel, so they don't really have too much of a relationship. Parallel planes, two planes that never touch. So let's go ahead and identify all of the parallel segments to JP. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight JP here, and we want parallel. So that would mean maybe LR, and that would also mean KQ or QK. Those would be parallel. Never touch those. Never touch each other there. And all planes parallel to plane PQR. So this kind of triangle here. So a plane that would be parallel would never intersect. So that would be this triangle above it. So if we kind of looked at this triangle, then JKL, plane JKL would be parallel. Now we want to name all of the segments skew to KL. So this line right here. So that would be JP. That would be PQ. So never touches it and isn't parallel to it. And I think there's one more PR. PR. So those three would be skew to KL. Next, we're going to talk about angle pairs. If we have two lines that are cut by what's called a transversal, meaning a line kind of going through those two lines. And we are first just going to identify, we have a dot kind of in this spot. So I always think of, with corresponding, I always think of foursquare. Like if this is my server in this foursquare box, then this is my server in this foursquare box. So they correspond. You could also have this angle and this angle. Those are corresponding. You could have this angle and this angle. Those are corresponding. But just gave you one example kind of for each of these for now. Consecutive or same side interior angles. Those are on the same side and they're in the interior between the two lines. Alternate interior, they're on alternate sides and they're between the two lines. Alternate exterior, so again, they're alternating sides and they're outside of the two lines. Vertical angles, we've already know those, kind of across from each other there. And then linear pair, we already know those two relationships. So let's go ahead and practice naming. If we had angle 1 and angle 8, those are alternating and they're outside of the two lines. So again, this is, think interior right here, and then exterior kind of outside, kind of in this space and this space. So we are alternate exterior with 1 and 8. And you can abbreviate however much you kind of want. You'll see I'll kind of start to do Alt-X. 5 and 2 is our next one. And notice that those are on the same side and they're in the interior. So either same side interior. You might also, our book likes to call them consecutive because it's one right after the other. So you might also see the word consecutive. So just kind of wanted to point that out. 4 and 5, Let's see, 4 and 5, alternate, but this time they're between the two lines, so they're alternate interior this time. And then 3 and 7. And so those, if I think of this kind of being in that bottom left, this one is in that bottom left, they're in the same position, so they are corresponding angles. If you want to add the word angles, you can. So next we're going to not only identify what kind of relationship they have, but the transversal line. So 3 and 5. So the line that kind of they follow along is this line M. So that's our transversal line, the line kind of that they both touch. And then it looks like they are alternate, and then they are between kind of the two lines. So alternate interior. Next we have 2 and 3. And so the line that they kind of both touch or follow along would be this line N. That's the transversal line. And they are on the same side, and they are between these two lines. So same side interior or consecutive interior. And the last one is 6 and 7. So these follow along this line Q. Looks like they both touch that line Q, so that's the transversal. And then they are kind of both in the same positioning here. So they're kind of to the left of this line, to the left of this line, and so that would be called corresponding. So now we're going to look at the relationship that those angles have when those lines are parallel. They are either going to be congruent or supplementary. So either the same or they're going to be different. So Harry Potter helps us figure that out. And so we're going to mark any dot. I'm just going to go ahead and put a dot on there. And then I'm going to find its vertical angle. Then I'm going to copy that same dot pattern on the other parallel line. So there and there. And then I'm going to connect the dots. And notice that it makes Harry Potter's scar. And so if they have a dot or they're both blank, they're going to be the same or equal. If they are different, one has a dot, the other one is blank, then those are supplementary. So we kind of get this pattern going here. So our relationships of corresponding alternate interior, same side interior, alternate exterior. If we look at kind of corresponding, those are going to be along the same scar line. So think orange are on the same scar line here. And so those are going to be congruent. If we look at alternate exterior, those again will be on the same scar line. So those will be congruent. Let's take a look at same side. Those are not going to be on the same scar line because there's my scar line, and they're different. So those are going to be 180 degrees together or supplementary when they're same side interior. And the last one is alternate exterior, which actually I think I did alternate interior as alternate exterior, which it doesn't matter because they're going to be the same. So here's my alternate interior, 2 and 6, they're the same. And then 1 and 5 alternate exterior, they are going to wind up on the same scar line, so they're congruent. So the only one that is not the same is our same side interior, and that is supplementary. So let's take a look and find our angle 4 here is 54 degrees, and it wants us to find the measure of angle 7. Well, 4 is going to be kind of that, I don't know, bottom angle, and so 8 would have to be 54. And since 7 is next to 54, it's not going to be 54, but it would be supplementary. So 180 minus 54 is going to give us the measure of angle 7. And so that would end up giving us 126 degrees. So angle 8 was 54 because those were corresponding, 4 and 8. And then we knew that angle 7 plus angle 8 was 180. And so we did our subtraction to get that measure of angle 7. So in our last example here, let's take a look at the relationship for 4 and 1. Are they on the same scar line? No, they're not. So they are not equal, which means they would be supplementary. So I'm going to go ahead and add them and set them equal to 180 degrees and solve. So 2x equals 112, so x is equal to 56. And that's all we needed to find, was to find x. So take a look at that relationship. If you need to kind of draw your scar line, do that, and then that will tell you which ones are congruent. And then if they are not on that same line, then they would be supplementary to what is on that line.